Welcome back to Road Gang Radio. Join Jimmy Mack and Lindsay Lawler's Gang of the Airwaves by subscribing to RadioNemo on YouTube.
We celebrate all kinds.
Make it official. After all, if you're listening, you're already in the gang. The Road Gang.
Hey, if you guys want to do any leaf peeping, please check out Brittany Clemhart's website. Visit shenandoahcounty.com. They have a whole list of things you can do. Speaking of things that we do, we don't miss this. Robert Braswell, the Executive Director of the ATA's Technology and Maintenance Council, is joining us this morning. I'll let him introduce the guest as he always does, but the talk is about vehicle visibility. Good morning to you, Robert. How are you? How has the week been treating you?
Good morning, Jimmy Mack. And, talk about leaf peeping, but this is my favorite time of year, October, because all the colors come out, the reds and the golds and whatnot. And, the weather's crisp, at least in this part of the country it is. So, yeah, I totally get down with the idea of watching leaves come off the trees and whatnot. It's really, really a beautiful time of year. But one of the things we have visibility for today is truck driver visibility, and that's what nothing more important than being able to see around your rig and having other people see you. And we're very pleased to welcome back to the program Jerry Hubbell, who's a human factors expert with many, many years of experience in cab ergonomics and driver vision and visibility. He is probably the preeminent expert at TMC on this subject. He's a longtime TMC member. He's been very active in not only the Technology and Maintenance Council, but also groups like SAE International and others, served in all sorts of leadership roles on technical committees that deal with these issues. And he's one of our Silver Spark Plug recipients. That's our council's highest honor. We're very happy he could join us on the program to talk about some of the new trends in technology that's designed to improve driver visibility and the standards that are going to be necessary going forward to make them work seamlessly with all the different kinds of systems that are out there. But before we get started, each week we like to make a special offer available to our listeners. This week it's our TMC Preventive Maintenance Inspection Manual for technicians. We're offering it for the special price of just $25 plus shipping and handling. To order, you can call us at 703-838-1763. Ask for item T0450, mention the RadioNemo gang, and you will get it for that special price. Also, if you are an owner-operator, your small fleet, you got 100 or fewer power units, you can join TMC today for the annual dues of just $150. Do that, you're going to get our 2-volume recommended practices manual. You'll get a lot of other great benefits, too, in addition to that. And if you're interested, call us on that same same number, 703-838-1763. We'd love to have you sign up. And as always, we remind our listeners at the top of the program, any recommended practices we discuss reflect the consensus of our members. We offer them as recommendations only, and everyone must first determine for themselves if they are safe and appropriate for their operation. Please remember that TMC doesn't endorse any product, person, or service, and the opinions expressed on the show are those of the individual and not necessarily the opinion of his or her company, nor TMC, unless stated otherwise. And with all that out of the way, please welcome to the program Jerry Hubbell. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning, Robert. Good to be back on Tech Talk. Enjoyed it.
So this is a subject I think that's near and dear to just everybody's heart that's listening to this program, whether you drive a commercial vehicle or whether you're just on the road with commercial vehicles. Visibility, so we all see each other very clearly, is vital. You have to have that, and the technology has really gotten a lot better. But it's not just about the technology; it's about simple things too. Just mirrors themselves have gotten better. I'm thinking back over the years. You look at some of the old designs back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. You wonder how people even made it down the road. Fortunately, there just wasn't as much traffic back then.
Right, and the thing, as you said, technology has advanced significantly in this area of visibility. Not only are the mirrors better, but they've been supplemented with cameras, and the cameras you can treat it and you can enhance visibility. So there's been a great improvement. But the thing that I still think is lacking, and anytime I talk to a seasoned driver that really knows it, I ask them what it would be like to have a rear view mirror. And this is radio, so I would do like the air quotations around it, mirror, meaning a replica that looks like a mirror, but is really a monitor. And they all think that would be a great idea because you not being able to see behind the tractor trailer is a big detriment especially when you're trying to make lane changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I'm just thinking about some of the advances that we've had over the last 30 years. It's like I say, the different kinds of mirrors that you have now, you didn't have back in the day. Just things like, motorized mirrors were a big advance. And that was only about, 30 years ago, really, when they started becoming commonplace. But the technology that's being applied to visibility now is so far advanced beyond that. It's just like Star Trek.
Yeah, it's almost comical to me. I knew Neil Gibson, who was the president of Motomir, and the reason he did it was because in driving a truck, if he had to change it, he had to do it with a big pole. He didn't like that. So, I mean, it's just kind of comical how far we've come in a relatively short period of time. I mean, that's back in the dark ages when you didn't even have motorized mirrors. But now the issue that I see, I mean, in passenger cars, they have an issue also with obstruction on the rearview mirror, and some passenger cars have actually have mirrors / monitors, and they have a camera at the back just because of the obstruction of closed-in daylight opening or big seats, big headrests, and it obstructs the view. So they replace it with a camera and then project it up onto a monitor that's shaped like a mirror, and so they get the view that they need. Well, if that's true for passenger cars, there's a gigantic obstacle behind heavy truckers, and that's called a trailer. And so if you need that same concept, the technology is there. The only problem is in passenger cars, they're hardwired. And nobody wants to add another connection between the tractor and the trailer, so it's got to be wireless. And with that comes a number of challenges.
Well, so there's talk in TMC and the other parts of the industry about a future tractor trailer connector. If it comes to fruition, and that may take a few years, will that enable this kind of technology not to have to be wireless? In other words, the bandwidth will be big enough to handle whatever the demands are in terms of the signal and so forth?
The jury's still out on that, Robert. There's some people that believe that that's doable, and then there's others that are concerned that the new connector won't be able to handle, like monitors and vision. They won't be able to handle that signal. Like I say, the jury's still out. I hope it does, because that would make a more reliable solution. But right now, our task force is working on the assumption that it needs to be wireless, and therefore you need a very robust system to communicate the signal between the trailer and the tractor.
Interesting you mentioned the passenger car. So the four-wheelers, it does seem like there's less glass on the smaller vehicles. And I guess that's maybe because of safety reasons. Safety regulations are trying to make the safety cage more robust. And so in order to do that, you minimize the daylight openings. And so that affords the opportunity to place more of this technology for visibility on the vehicle to compensate. Is that basically what's going on?
Well, yeah, I mean, I spent a large part of my career at a passenger car company that also did heavy trucks, so I'm very familiar with the demands of and the evolution of a car design, and there's a lot that goes into it. Some that you mentioned, a lot of it is pure aesthetics, just what makes a particular model look good and they think it'll sell. And so vision is usually not high on the priority as it's in the studio and the clay models and they're making it. And so it's usually an engineer's job after it gets done to try to provide the driver what needs to happen in order to drive the vehicle. So there's many factors. I guess what I'm saying, there's many factors that go into decreasing the view out the rear view mirror of a passenger car.
Well, one factor that's uncontrovertible is that it's hard to see around a tractor trailer. We're talking about a big rectangle being pulled by a smaller big rectangle. Everybody's got to be able to see around the vehicle. The driver's got to be able to see his surroundings or her surroundings. And the wireless technology is going to be critical to making sure it's interoperable. So no matter what trailer you're dropping and hooking, it's going to work with the tractor that you're in. What is the TMC task force doing to kind of standardize and achieve these robust wireless connections?
Well, there's a number of factors, but as you said, if you're doing it wirelessly, you've got to pair or what's called a handshake between the transmission of the camera images up to the to the tractor. And so that wireless transmission needs to be paired, and that pairing process is sometimes can be complicated. And so what the task force is trying to outline so that the fleets would know how to spec it and what to look for is that it needs to be as simple as possible. And the task force is actually seeing a proof of concept demonstration that the pairing was done in such a way with a technique that the driver was just doing his normal routine of connecting up the trailer, airing it up, and by using that process to trigger the pairing, he's not having to do something special, or so we call it passive pairing. And so that's the first thing. It's got to be something that the handshake is complete, so they only talk to each other, and so that if the next day you're picking up another trailer, you're not getting the image from the trailer you pulled the day before. And so it's got to be constantly changing to the pairing of the trailer you're pulling. And that's also true for doubles and triples. It's got to be the trailing or the last trailer in the train that you're getting the image from, or else it would defeat the purpose. You don't want to see the view of a trailer behind another trailer.
Anybody who's had to pair a Bluetooth speaker or a Bluetooth wireless mouth to their laptop or computer knows sometimes those handshakes aren't exactly seamless. So it's going to have to be a lot better than that, for example.
Right, and that's the thing. That's why as the task force has been working on it. And like I say, there are systems out there that need to be more robust, and that's why we're trying to specify it. And so once it's paired and there's no crosstalk, it's got to be very robust. And once you get that handshake, it's got to be secure and not let go. And one of the things that people worry about is that, okay, if it's wireless and it's going through, there's got to be some lag, or the technical term is latency. And that's true technically, but it's such a small number. In fact, the spec that we're working on a task force would be less than 200 milliseconds. And just for reference, a blink of the eye is 150 milliseconds. So it's for all practical purposes real time. What you see on the monitor is what's really happening behind the trailer.
Is there a possibility that weather or atmospheric conditions can interfere with that wireless connection? Is those some of the concerns you had when you're picking the wireless protocol and technology that will power this kind of a system?
Well, we've done testing, and so far we haven't found anything that like of that nature that does it. Like I said, it's got to be very robust and transmits it. But most of the events that a driver would see on the road isn't going to do anything to interrupt that communication between the transceiver and the transmitter.
And that communication would be dedicated just for this purpose. It's not like you're sharing the technology with other systems on the truck, right? This is a dedicated point A, point B connection. Correct.
And that's the challenge that you talked earlier, the work that's going on with the next generation connector. And that's the concern of putting the signal on even the connector that they're working on. There's multiple things going on through different circuits. And so to keep it pure, like they may be able to solve it, but we're working on the assumption that it needs to be a separate system.
And it needs to be standardized. And as we know, there's there's not exactly an agreement on standardization for the next gen connector. Maybe some time before
Right.
that happens. It's often what happens is in Europe or other parts of the world, in the commercial vehicle sector, the manufacturers are a little bit ahead of we are in North America on some of this technology. Is that the case now? Are there wireless visibility solutions going on in Europe or maybe in Asia that maybe we can look to as an example, or are we pretty much there on the cutting edge?
It's a mixed bag. There's some work that's going on in Europe. A lot of because of the length requirements. There's not as many tractor trailers, certainly not doubles and triples like you see in the United States. A lot of times they have what they call a truck and a pup. And so for trucks, obviously you can hardwire it like you do a passenger car, and that kind of solves the wireless issue. And then if you do a trailer, like a truck and a pup, the trailer part of it, it's pretty much the same as what we're doing here. So I'm not aware of any unique solutions that they're doing in Europe. We try to monitor it, and we have people on the task force that are monitoring that. And so far, we're not aware of anything that's revolutionary that would help us.
So if the technology was adopted, and I'm going to call it 360 visibility, that's not really a precise term. We don't use that so much anymore. But some of the main benefits I think for this technology would be backing first of all, wouldn't it?
Yeah, obviously, backing a heavy truck into a dock is a challenge in and of itself, especially at night. There's no backup lights that are on the car, so it's dark, and so being able to see, particularly if you got infrared, we can make an infrared, and it really is remarkable how helpful it is in backing. So that's an obvious benefit of the camera at the back of the trailer. But in my opinion, the major benefit would be able to judge when you can clear a vehicle when you're passing them, and know what's going on back there. When you right now a driver that's passing somebody, it's very difficult to know when it's okay to pull over. So most of them overcompensate and make sure there's a gigantic gap between the rear of the trailer and the vehicle that they're passing. And because if you're judging even with the cameras and the enhanced vision, it's really difficult to judge that distance. So camera there and knowing that your trailer is ahead of the vehicle that you're passing would be, I think, a major benefit.
You're listening to Tech Talk with TMC. We have Jerry Hubbell here with us. He's a visibility expert, works with the Technology Maintenance Council's Task Force on Visibility. In fact, he chairs it, and we're talking about some of the efforts underway to standardize wireless connections for tractor trailers for achieving this 360-degree visibility, being able to see behind the trailer through camera technologies. Like I say, it's very easy to do it if it's a straight truck, but it's a different story when you have combination units. And let's talk a little bit about some of the requirements that the task force is working on for some of these particular systems. So we were talking about transmitters and receivers. This got to be more robust than just, let's say, off-the-shelf Bluetooth, because this system's got to make a connection. You're talking about a trailer, could be a couple hundred feet, right?
Right, and that's the specification. We're saying it has to be maintain a connection over 150 feet to be sure that it covers all of the possible combinations where it may be applied in the heavy truck world. And that, as we talked before, once you have that transmitter and a transceiver, they've got to be robust. It's got to be significant, and then it's got to be paired and locked in. That pairing process is, as I mentioned before, is critical. So that in effect, it's locked in, and you're not going to get any interruption to that signal, which is obviously critical.
And more importantly, too, no matter what brand of technology that you're using, whether you got brand A on the tractor and brand B on the first trailer and brand C on the third trailer in a triples unit, they've all got to talk and pair with each other seamlessly, no matter who made the unit.
Right, and that is a very significant challenge, as everybody in the industry wants to sell their particular product, and they always talk distinctives, and as you know, in TMC, we work hard to make sure that things are universal and we're not trying to sell any particular product or make. It's just it's the technology that's important, and so that's where the task force is gearing in, the technology definition of what's required to achieve this seamlessly and robustly.
So, yeah, standardization is great. Everybody's using the same basic DSRC, dedicated short range technology. But how do you keep my system on my unit from getting confused with the one sitting next to me in traffic, just like 6, 7 feet to the right or to the left?
Right, and that's the key. I mean, crosstalk is what we call that. Is obviously something that can't be tolerated, whether it's in the like I said, in the yard of the fleet, and you were on trailer A yesterday, and you're on trailer B today. You want to make sure that you are only connected to the trailer that you're pulling. And there's a number of techniques that we've been discussing in the task force to make sure that doesn't happen. That there is no crosstalk. And then, as you say, as you're in traffic, and you happen to be pulling up to a sister, fleet driver, and you don't want to be seeing the view out of his trailer. And so all of that is inherent in the pairing process and making sure that once it's locked in, it's there until you disconnect.
With mirrors, it's not unusual. You're going down the road, there's some road hazard, and you maybe lose a rearview mirror. It's possible that could happen with some of this camera technology, although it's smaller and you can probably package it in such a way that it's much better protected than conventional visibility options, right?
Yeah, that's everybody is concerned about downtime, and it's incredible when you get into it and you realize how many mirrors are broken, en route. And it's not, when you really think about it, it's not surprising, because it's the thing that protrudes out the farthest in order to get a good view. There's width laws that your vehicle can't be any wider than X. I can't remember the number right now. I think it's 2 meters. But the cameras, the mirrors have to be out beyond that so that you can actually see along, get a reflected view. And so they're very prone to damage. And as you said, cameras have a much better opportunity of being, you can put it right on the surface, and then by monitoring and managing the image, you can you have much more flexibility than a mirror that's just really reflecting a direct one-to-one image. So it's better. Obviously, that's a concern, but that's a concern that is much less with cameras than it is with the traditional mirrors.
But there's no doubt, whenever there's technology, things do break, things do fail. How do you plan as an engineer for that redundancy in the system? So let's say you do lose a camera and you can't see behind the vehicle. What's the plan B for a driver in that situation?
Well, the concern, like right now, if you break a mirror, you're down, and there could be a situation where you would be down with a camera. But there's a lot of techniques that have been used. They've been redundant systems so that you get two cameras, and you can easily do that so that you minimize the risk.
We have a couple of minutes left here in this segment. What about cybersecurity? We talked about some of the, the regular kinds of things that might happen. Road hazards. Maybe the technology might, break down because of just natural aging or whatever. What about cybersecurity risks? You have to protect the system from, bad actors, right?
Right, and that's there's a number of efforts that are going forth, as you know, Robert, in the TMC, because it's not limited to the view behind the trailer. I mean, there's even more important things that need to be secured and robust enough that you're protecting it, hacking and terrorism, and control of the vehicle, et cetera. And so we're monitoring that, and we will add that to any recommended practice, making sure, make reference to the work that's going on in other task forces on cybersecurity.
Forward-facing cameras are very popular with drivers, so this is an opportunity to have that same kind of technology at the back of the trailer. I would think that would be very popular as well. It has a great opportunity to say, document for the driver, when a crash happens. We know most of the time it's not the commercial driver that's at fault. It's usually the actions of a four-wheeler. This will help, with accident investigation and all of that.
Right, and it's adding to it, as you indicated. There's dash cam technology that are on many trucks, and it records and documents, even if it's not used for the driver. It's recorded so that if there's an event, you can download the information and see the view in front of the trailer. Some of them you actually have the view of the driver, so you can document that the driver was doing his job. He wasn't on his phone or something else. And so what this would do is supplement that with a view behind, so that you would have a much fuller picture of what happened immediately before the event that you're investigating.
I'm just thinking of all the data centers we have to build to capture all this data and store it. That's another subject for discussion, but not on this Tech Talk with TMC. We've run out of time with this segment, Jerry, but thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to having you back on the program really, really soon.
Okay. Thanks, Robert. Good to be here.
And with that, we're going to take it back to the studios there at Jimmy Mack in New Orleans.
Thank you, Robert. Well done, as always. Quick, give us a preview of what we got coming up next week.
Well, next week we're going to be joined by Mike Rowland, who's going to be giving us some expert tips on if you're interested in adding electric vehicles to your fleet. How do you deal with the issue of infrastructure? The electric vehicles are easy to get. The infrastructure is another story. We're going to be taking a deep dive into that and how you can overcome some of those challenges on the next Tech Talk with TMC.
Thank you as always, Robert. And by the way, people can be great, but they need a grid to be even greater. Thank you so much. Have a great week.
You too.